Hello, good morning. Happy Growth and Grace Day. This morning, we are going to talk through a topic that really has kept me on my toes in the past. It's definitely something that I have let take over before. And I want to show you just a few ways, a few thoughts, and ways that you can help eliminate this thought. That's a misnomer. You're not going to eliminate the thought. It's going to help you move through the thought when the thought comes up, and how to actually very genuinely not let it rule your life. Because I know for a lot of us, whether it's something you've walked through, whether it's something you're currently walking through, we have let the approval of others dictate our actions. We've looked to the approval of others before we've made a decision, because we're like, well, what decision would we make that would best get their approval, whoever they is, whether it's a parent, whether it's a significant other, whether it's the general population, whatever it is. We can easily get caught up in the trap of, oh my gosh, well, I need their approval before I can move forward, or I'm going to tailor my life and my decisions and my choices in the hopes that whatever I'm doing or saying or however I'm showing up is going to get their approval. And that's so destructive, and it's just not a healthy way to live. And it's not authentic, because when you're constantly living for other people in a, I'm only doing this in the hopes of getting their approval, or I'm only going to show up in this way, fingers crossed that they're actually going to notice and give some applause, that's super destructive and unhealthy. So this morning we're going to talk through how to actually move through that. And honestly, it's going to be really simple, because I like to uncomplicate things. So the very first thing is, obviously, and when you read the titles of this Facebook Live, sometimes it'll be like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's totally something I do. Sometimes it's more of a subconscious thing and you might not recognize it. So as with anything that I ever talk about, the first step is going to be recognizing it and acknowledging, wow, that's totally something that I do in my own life. And the second pairing to that is, that's something I want to address. It's something I want to shift. Because if you don't want to change it, then it's not going to change, and then you're going to keep living with it. So I can't do anything if you don't want to change. There's nothing I could offer. There's no words of wisdom that you could hear that would make a difference if you don't want to change it. So recognizing it, and the desire to say, you know what, I don't want to keep living for other people's approval. I don't want to keep waking up every day and putting everything through the filter of, oh, well, do you think so-and-so would approve of this? We're going to get some freedom from that, get a little bit of liberation in that area. And what that's going to look like is when you recognize those thoughts, when you start saying like, oh man, I wonder if so-and-so would approve. Why do you need their approval? And like, what is it, what feeling is it going to give you? What experience, what is it going to help you break through if you were to get their approval? So that's one thing to look at. And then the second thing is, what if you don't get their approval? Like, what's your next course of action? If what you originally did thinking it would get their approval didn't get their approval, what's your next course of action? It's recognizing those are like your barriers, kind of, because if you're only doing it for their approval and you get it or you don't get it, and those are the things determining your actions, then that can be a very stunted way of living, because you're like barricading yourself within these, well, these are kind of the only two things that could happen. These are the only two ways that could play out. And it's all based around this person's approval or disapproval of whatever it is that you're doing. So first, recognizing it. Second, acknowledging that you'd like to shift. And then third, kind of recognizing what's your desire, what's your hope for that, and what would you do if it doesn't play out how you're thinking it's going to play out. But I will say the biggest key, the biggest change that has made a difference for me personally in this arena has simply been to recognize and actually say out loud and I do actually say it out loud, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't matter if they approve or not. It doesn't matter, because it doesn't. And if you are a follower of Jesus or not, you may or may not, this may or may not resonate with you, but I saw a quote one time, and I don't know who to attribute this to, so probably Google would be able to help us here. But the quote says, "The only applause you're meant to seek is that of nail-scarred hands." So for those of you who don't follow Jesus, he died on the cross and nails were put through his hands and his feet. And so his applause is what that's indicating. And really, when we seek to please the Father, as opposed to seeking to please other people and seeking to please, that whether it's parents or bosses or the general population, whatever, that gets really convoluted and it gets really messy, and it's never going to fully access your skill set. It's never going to fully bring out who you genuinely are. And their approval is not actually fulfilling. Like, it's not actually going to fill any void or truly, genuinely suffice. So it's that striving, it's the, drinking salt water hoping that you're going to stop feeling thirsty, when in all actuality, it's actually dehydrating you more. So when I say, and I actually do say it out loud, "Susan, it doesn't matter," that is my way of interrupting that thought and recalibrating myself, bringing myself back to the reality that it actually really doesn't matter. And one tangible example that I'll use, as many of you have been following my dating journey over the last couple years, is online dating. So I'm on some of the apps, the swiping apps, and there are times where you get excited about someone and you're like, "Oh, they're cute, they're nice," and you get kind of excited, and you're messaging back and forth, or you're trying to schedule a time for a date, and then they ghost, and all of a sudden they're not there anymore. And that used to throw me for a loop. Let me tell you, that used to knock me off track. Like, I used to care so much that person, who I don't even really know, I only had just been messaging back and forth a few times after meeting them on an app. We've never actually met in person. Like, this person doesn't know me. This person doesn't have any influence in my life. This person isn't someone I've been respecting for decades that I look up to and admire. This is someone I just met who doesn't know me from Adam. And it's so easy to let things like that knock us off track and be like, "Oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I say? Did I not do something? Did I do something too much? And we get spinning in our thoughts about all the different things that could have caused them to drop off and not be responsive anymore. And yet, it doesn't matter. Oh well, that they stopped responding. Move to the next person. And if there's not a next person, let that one go. They're not interested. Like, if someone is interested, they will make effort. So it was kind of that wake-up call, like shaking, when you take someone, you're just like, "Oh, I just want to shake them and tell them." That, for me, like, very specifically in this context of the dating app, like, that was a very taking myself and like shaking my shoulders going, "Susan, it doesn't matter. Like, they're not interested. And I don't want to be with someone who's not interested in me. And I can't think of anyone that I know who would want to be with someone who's not interested in them." And I have dated people in the past who were very, not that they didn't have any interest, there must have been something there, but they were like, they didn't really care. And they weren't really that interested, and they weren't really putting any effort in. And it sucks. And it's very like, "Oh, I wish that you cared. I wish that you wanted to be here." So recognize that not everyone's input or lack of input into your life needs to hold weight, especially, I would say, people that don't even know us. A stranger who comments on your online post and they say something mean, like, oh well, it doesn't matter. They don't know you and they don't know what you're up to, and it doesn't matter. So I would just encourage, like, this is kind of a shoulder shaking video because I just want to have you register that it doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter if they approve or not. What matters is that you're continuing to show up. What matters is that you're continuing to be in integrity with your work ethic, with your, how you're showing up in relationships. What matters is that you are seeking the applause only of nail-scarred hands. Like, that is ultimately what matters. And it's not going to come from doing the exact right thing or saying the exact right thing or being in the exact right scenario at the exact right time. Just recognize that you can make a difference every day. So show up, make a difference, and allow yourself to just have that little voice. Let me be a little voice in your head saying, it doesn't matter what they say. Don't do it for their approval. Do the thing because it's the thing that should be done, not because I hope it's the thing that gets the applause that I'm looking for. So I know this was a little bit of a life-rattling video for some of you, but it is a game changer when you can lock into that and not let the approval of others determine your course of action. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I hope that you guys have an amazing day, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Growth and Grace every Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. Until then, bye for now.